So the thing to understand here, the foundation of everything that I'm talking about today, is that we are all born into a society that is essentially organized at its living core around animal agriculture, and that animal agriculture devastates and harms and erodes all five of these domains of health. It is not ever in any way helping. It's harming all five of these directly, continuously, without stop. And if we are not clear about that, then we are going to be finding that our health is going to suffer, essentially, both individually and collectively. Animal agriculture is absolutely notoriously wasteful of resources. That's the thing we have to really understand in terms of environmental health, and really all of them. But from a basic just efficiency point of view, you can't think of a more destructive and wasteful way of eating than to grow enormous quantities of corn and soy and alfalfa and wheat and other grains and legumes. And then instead of feeding them directly to people, to feed them to imprisoned cows and pigs and chickens and factory farmed fishes. And actually, it's good to remember that 2/3 of the fish we're eating now are factory farmed, very toxic, polluted flesh in these fish. But to feed all this grain to these animals, who then convert what could be healthy grain, essentially carbohydrates and fiber and vitamins and minerals, into saturated fat, cholesterol, acidifying and inflammatory animal protein, and huge amounts of nitrous oxide, methane, and toxic waste that ends up going back into the water, back into the land, into the atmosphere, destabilizing climate and destroying the health of aquifers, of ecosystems, depleting aquifers, the amount of water that's needed. It's just really tragic. It's such a tragedy of ignorance on the part of humanity, and the part of most human beings don't realize the wastefulness of this. I mean, and basically, when you look at the billions of tons of food that we eat every year, 85% actually that we eat is plant-based foods. They're actually directly plant-based foods. We're eating rice and corn and vegetables and fruits and so forth. And they are grown on merely 6% of the land of the earth, of the land area of the earth, grows that 85% of the food. However, another 45% of the earth's surface land area is used to grow animal-based foods, meat, dairy products, and eggs, and that's only 12% of the food that we're eating uh, by weight. So, and then the other 3% that makes up the 100% is basically fish, aquatic animals. So we're completely attacking and destroying our oceans for fish, and we feed these fish not only to us, to human beings, but we feed these fish also to cows and pigs and chickens. Scientists discovered that if you enrich the feed of these animals by feeding them foods that they would never eat, it's comical to think of a cow trying to catch a fish, right? But cows are eating enormous quantities of fish because scientists discovered that they put on weight more quickly, and that's basically profitable. So we have this massive attack on oceans. If any of you have had the chance to see the new documentary Seaspiracy, it just came out, but I highly recommend seeing that. It really shows how we have not been told the truth about the leading cause of the destruction of oceans, which is fishing, overfishing, and fishing in general is what's really devastating. And it's not just for humans. There's huge amounts that are fed to cows and pigs and chickens and to other farmed fish. Salmon, for example, are farmed, and they're fed huge quantities of other fish, trout and tilapia. And we have factory farming of fish. I mean, we have, for example, in Mississippi, huge quantities of grain go to feed catfish and trout and other fish that are fed to either to people or to chickens and cows and pigs. So feeding these animals to each other, and these are animals that would never eat each other, is very devastating to their health. They're not designed for these. And so they're given huge, again, quantities of antibiotics, as well as over 10,000 different drugs and hormones that are routinely injected into these animals and mixed into their feed in order to manipulate them, pharmaceutically, and also to try to get them to live long enough before they're slaughtered. So we're eating all these hormones and these toxic chemicals that concentrate, as well as I discussed in the World Peace Diet, we're eating the terror and fear and pain of these animals. So from an environmental point of view, animal agriculture is utterly destructive to our ecosystems on every level, to soil erosion, water depletion, water pollution, habitat destruction, species extinction. We're in the middle of the largest mass extinction of species now in 65 million years, driven by animal agriculture and by essentially this incredibly absurdly wasteful way of feeding human beings. If we would just eat the food directly, we could feed everyone on a fraction of the land. And for example, in the United States, we eat probably more meat and dairy than virtually any other country in the world. And we have among the highest rates of liver disease, kidney disease, autoimmune disease, breast, prostate, and colon cancer, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, strokes, the very diseases that are linked with animal-based food. So we're suffering in that way in the United States. And I think it's essential to realize that if we continue on this path, we are not going to be, it's completely unsustainable. So to see that the environmental health and the converse of that, environmental devastation, is linked to animal agriculture gives essentially the implicit teaching, which is the very good news, the great, wonderful news that we could dramatically and very quickly heal our environmental problems by moving to a plant-based way of eating, according to the National Academy of Sciences and other very conservative scientific groups. We're basically using about between 12 and 15 times as much land as we need to be. For example, a vegan is using only 1/12 the amount of land as someone eating a standard Western diet. So it's not just twice or 3 times as much. We're talking about 12 times we could reduce the amount of land we're using, 12 times. So when we just extrapolate that out to the population, we're talking about essentially as we move away from eating animal-based foods, away from fish and dairy products and eggs and animal flesh, then we are creating the foundation of abundance. The earth is abundant. I know all of you have noticed by now that this earth is enormously beautiful.